impeachment proceeding. That means you would have abrogated yourself the function of what the Senate is supposed to be doing. Consequently, you should bring these points to a vote by the House, Mr. Speaker, and by the honorable members of Senate. Two, Mr. Speaker, there was an application on the issue of a protection of a witness, a key witness in these proceedings, Mr. Speaker. It's my very considered opinion, Mr. Speaker, that protection should be afforded to a witness who feels vulnerable, Mr. Speaker, because of the nature of the offenses that have been brought forth, Mr. Speaker. But while giving that protection to this witness, Mr. Speaker, there must be a balance as to how that protection is given. For instance, Mr. Speaker, and if you are guided by the Witness Protection Act, Mr. Speaker, we could take off the proceedings from camera with respect to that witness, but ensure that senators have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to hear the kind of allegations so that you balance between the witness not being hidden away from the accused governor, Mr. Speaker, and the senators who are supposed to be judges, but you also ensure that the witness is not exposed to an extent that reputational damage would appear or would occur, Mr. Speaker, in the event that the evidence she's adducing is true, and whether that evidence is true or not will be determined after the witness has been heard. So we should balance the two, Mr. Speaker, but ensure that the witness is protected because of the nature of the offenses, Mr. Speaker. With those remarks, Mr. Speaker, I would urge you to allow the senators to vote on this. I will not.
Senator Munyihaji Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kimsingi ni kwamba mawakili wa gavana wanataka masuala haya yaamuliwe kabla ya kusikizwa kwa mashtaka ambayo yameletwa hapa na Assembly ya Kericho. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiangalia bunge la Senate linapokaa kuangalia masuala ya impeachment ni kama mahakama, na katiba yetu inasema katika kifungu cha 159 ni kwamba mahakama zinapokaa haki iamuliwe bila ya kuzingatia masuala magumu ya procedure na vile vile pia kiteknikali. If I may read it in English, Mr. Speaker, is that justice shall be administered without undue.
Senator Faki, choose the language you'd wish to
for
make
the benefit of the samani, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
You started in Kiswahili, proceed in Kiswahili.
Sasa samani, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Kwa hivyo na Mheshimiwa Speaker, swala lililoko mbele ya bunge hili la Senate ni kwamba Seneti iamue masuala ambayo yamefikishwa mbele yake bila ya kuzingatia mambo ya kiteknikali, kwa sababu tunapozingatia mambo ya kiteknikali tutapoteza ile fursa ya kuweza kutenda haki ya kimsingi. Jambo la pili, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni kwamba bunge la Senate linapiga kura kutokana na masuala ya delegation. Kwa hivyo hili ni swala ambalo linaathiri counties, na kwa masuala yote yanayoathiri counties uamuzi huwa ni wa kupiga kura wa zile delegation 47 ambazo ziko katika bunge hili. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, swala la wewe kukata kwamba swala hili halikutimizwa ama swala la quorum halikutimia katika bunge la Kericho, la bunge la county ya Kericho, Mheshimiwa Speaker, hapo utakuwa umekeuka katiba na vile vile pia umekeuka kanuni zetu za bunge hili ambapo zinasema kwa masuala ya uamuzi iwe ni kwa sababu ni masuala ya delegations ambazo ziko katika bunge hili. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Senator Kericho Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me also the opportunity. And it's true, I agree with my other senators, there is an issue when it comes to the law, that is section 33 of County Government Acts, to really verify and know whether the numbers that the MCAs that approved this motion, whether they met the threshold. But I'm lucky because I happen to have, continued with my maths, where you reach a point where maths and science go together. So when it comes now to 31.3, the science math says there is no half person, so it should have been 32. The 0.3 is always becomes a whole person, which it should be 32. But now the other big question is, if this motion is returned back to the county assembly, how sure are we that it will not come back within a week? So I think we are now again not very sure whether we are going to save or hurt the people that brought this motion here. But it is true, we've not met the threshold. It should have been 32, not 31. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Sifuna. Senator Eddy, certainly you cannot rise on a point of order. There is no senator speaking. Senator Lominen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, as I've listened to the councils from the both sides, Chair, we have a heavy duty to do in this Senate House, and we need time. Chair, if you see the voluminous books that are with us, there are many contents that we have to listen before we make a ruling. Chair, I will want to urge this House and you, Mr. Speaker, to give us an opportunity as senators or judges to make a ruling of this issue of appeal by making a vote. And then we continue from there, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir.
Senator Wamatinga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Indeed, we are invited as senators to do justice to a matter brought before us. But even before we do that, Mr. Speaker, it is our duty and responsibility as the whole country and the whole world watches to ensure that we do justice to matters that are come before us. Mr. Speaker, sir, it has been cited that decisions have been made and presidents have been set. But that notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, it is also imperative that we interrogate that under which condition those decisions and presidents were set. Mr. Speaker, sir, as an engineer, I know that rounding numbers to the nearest is a common practice. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are invited in this matter not to look at the case before us scientifically, but to look at it as is required using the jurisprudence that have been set before. Mr. Speaker, 31.3 cannot meet the threshold. And therefore, I think it is imperative that we as senators move a motion and decide on this matter, determine this matter, even before we go into full hearing, because that is the responsibility that we have, and it is what people expect of us, and it is what we must do as senators. Mr. Speaker, the role of these senators sitting here, when they come and sit as juries, we must make a decision whether the prerequisite preliminaries have been met. If they are not been met, Mr. Speaker, then we must return matter to the sender so that they can meet the threshold and we can be able to be sitting in a matter that is supposed to be sat for by this House. Mr. Speaker, sir, I submit.
Senator Eddy. Senator Eddy.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we're invited to do in this House on two substantive POs, Mr. Speaker. One, I cannot belabor, Mr. Speaker. We cannot be gagged by decision of court from doing our job. So I think that one we are in tandem, Mr. Speaker. On this issue of mathematics, Mr. Speaker, you are invited to make a decision which I think that it is the House that should make. One is a practical a question and the other one is a mathematical question. Practically, Mr. Speaker, you cannot have a fraction of human beings reduced to the lower number. And mathematically, Mr. Speaker, I think that it is a question that probably would have needed a judicial review even long before it came to this place, Mr. Speaker. Because constitutionally, this question of 2/3 has never confronted the country. And Mr. Speaker, the only time that we see it, and especially from the cases that has been presented here, is the case for Tana River, Mr. Speaker. So as a House, I think it behooves us to go with the larger question of what has been determined in court. And what has been determined in court as per now, without a judicial review, is the case for Tana River, which then can be the only legal basis and legal framework that then we can be able to use to question this practicality of numbers. But that said, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to urge the House that because this is a very serious issue, Mr. Speaker, and the people of Kericho would want to be heard, perhaps the determination of these two POs should be done with the other substantive issues that have been brought in the House so that senators have got a chance to make observations at the end of this entire process, so that those preliminaries will form part of the conversations and as we go through the charges, and this matter be heard, and then we'll make a determination at the end, Mr. Speaker, because if we don't, then you'll be invited to a very dangerous path, Mr. Speaker, whereby you...
Senator Oroba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to add my voice about the victim protection, Mr. Speaker. In the Victim Protection Act, Section 8, it says that any victim has a right for privacy and protection. And therefore, because the proceedings here will be broadcasted, Mr. Speaker, I believe we have no choice but to follow the law and ensure that Section 8, Section 10, and Section 11, particularly on the issue of disclosing the identity of the victim, are taken care of. Mr. Speaker, on the matter of the 2/3 threshold, Mr. Speaker, this is a house of procedure. We are guided by procedure, and we have our standing order. Our standing order says on the procedure for removal of a governor, within 7 days after receiving notice of a resolution from the Speaker of the County Assembly supporting the removal of a governor, pursuant to Article 181, then the proceedings begin. Mr. Speaker, in that sense, why are we even debating this? There is no opportunity in our standing order where we are told, go back to the County Assembly and check if the threshold was met and check if the allegations were actually substituted. For us, we are quasi-judicial process. They have reached here. As long as we have the notice of resolution from the Speaker, from the County Assembly, our work is to proceed. And for those who feel that the threshold was not met, Mr. Speaker, they can go to court and proceed with that argument there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Asige.
Thank you, Speaker. I have two observations to make. It's my understanding that the Kericho County Assembly consists of 47 members, and Section 33 of CGA requires 2/3 of the votes are needed to support an impeachment motion, which means that the County Assembly needed 31.3 votes. And further, if we use the Nkaduda versus County Assembly of Tana River case, we can infer, because of jurisprudence, that a natural person cannot be fragmented into a fraction. And therefore, the logical thing to do, of course, would be to round off the decimal to the nearest round number. And the nearest round number in this case is 31. Speaker, we are here as a quasi-judicial hearing. And I see us, of course, as judges, very, very strongly so in this case. And Speaker, I also see us akin to scientists who have been given the mandate to deal with this case with precision. This is a laboratory, Mr. Speaker, and we are all scientists, and we have been called to make a very fine cut in this, with these POs. Speaker, Science has laws. There is the law of gravity, law of motion, the law of the Mendel's law, the Megan law, several laws, Mr. Speaker, and those are absolute. They cannot be moved. They cannot be wished away. Similarly, Speaker, the High Court has ruled through this jurisprudence that that you should calculate to the nearest round number, and that, Mr. Speaker, is law. It's through a court of law, and I think that we should continue in that way. 31 has been met in terms of votes, and therefore we should listen to this case further and listen to the substantive issues therein. Speaker, also, you have been invited by the Governor's Council to mirror the decision of your counterpart in the National Assembly. I feel that is out of order, Speaker. You are not a conveyor belt. You are not somebody who regurgitates what the Speaker of the National Assembly does or says. You are not a parrot of the National Assembly, Speaker, and therefore being invited to mirror a decision that...
Senator Seki.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also stand to put my voice on this matter. Honorable Speaker, I want to believe that the County Assembly have pronounced themselves, they have presented themselves. The Governor panel has also presented themselves. And now it is the Senate now to determine whether to listen to the PO to proceed with this matter. But I want to assure and believe that this matter will be determined in whichever case, Honorable Speaker. Either we have presented ourselves, we have pronounced ourselves, we have determined ourselves before this case, or even when we determine this case when we are finishing, we listen this case towards the end. I want to believe that this is the right time, that we need to hear both sides, the County Assembly and the Governor, the Governor's team, so that at the end of it all, everything will determine, because we will see if true the County Assembly had the threshold or not, or the Governor has issues that has been accused to. It is going to be determined towards the end. So, Honorable Speaker, I believe that this is a time when we need to hear this case. We need to hear because the process has started, and there is no way we can stop this process. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to support that we proceed with the matter. Thank you very much.
Senator Kiingi Beatrice.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, the issue that I want to talk to is the issue of the threshold. Honorable Speaker, you can't round off human beings. And if a threshold has to be determined, Honorable Speaker, and it has been stated, to me, Honorable Speaker, there is no way around it. We must look at the issue of threshold, and it must be determined, Honorable Speaker, because we cannot set a precedent that is otherwise. Honorable Speaker, on the PO, if it has to be determined, it is a matter that does not concern counties, and so, Honorable Speaker, I stand guided, but I think all the 67 senators stand to determine, to vote on that. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, on the issue of threshold, Honorable Speaker, I want to support that the threshold must be met from the word go. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Methu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I don't want to buttress what my colleagues have said. I want to agree that on the first PO, it falls by the way, because precedences have been said that Parliament cannot be injected on the course of its work. But Honorable Speaker, you've been invited to make a very critical decision, and without speaking on whether the threshold was 31 or 32, both parties have come with arguments and counter-arguments. Why they actually think that 31 would be the threshold, why they think that 32 would be the threshold. Authorities have been cited, especially in the Tana River case, the County Assembly Speaker Kaduda versus the County Assembly on the number as to at what point you should be able to truncate the numbers, and they actually believe that it should be rounded off to the nearest whole. The defense of the governor through their counsel, Katwa Kigen, they actually feel that even at the very beginning or the inception of this county assembly, there had been set a precedence that 32 would be the number. So, Honorable Speaker, you've been invited to make this particular decision, and this is a weighty decision because if you are to allow this PO, then this impeachment proceeding will fall as at now. We shall not have, the jury will not have had an opportunity to make a decision on this particular matter. It is a very serious invitation, and I would want to dissuade you, Honorable Speaker, from allowing or agreeing to fall prey to Rule 30 of the rules of procedure, that you make this decision on the preliminary objection. Please, Honorable Speaker, allow the 47 delegations to make this decision on whether, well, it could be 67 or 47, whatever would be the case, Honorable Speaker, if it touches on the counties, Honorable Speaker, but allow senators who are the jury, who are the judges on this particular matter, to make this decision. Honorable Speaker, for you on this matter, you are an umpire. You have no dog in this fight. Yours is to just umpire.
Now, honorable senators, we need to make progress. I may take your seat, Professor Minority Leader and Senator Kajwang. I've heard you, and nothing new seems to be coming out at this juncture. And therefore, for us to make progress, you'll allow me to use Standing Order number 1 to suspend the sitting for 15 minutes so that we resume at 3:30 for me to go consider the interventions you've made and give a way forward on how we are going to dispense with this matter. Because remember, honorable senators, if in the event that we proceed with this hearing, we have to start from the beginning. The hearing hasn't started yet. We are merely dealing with preliminary matters, and therefore time is of the essence. So kindly, honorable senators, we proceed now to suspend the sitting for 15 minutes, and we shall resume at 3:30.